you had better be prepared to turn wet and messy.
Okay, so here we are with Joseph Arrington. Please introduce yourself, Joseph.
Hi, my name is Joseph Arrington.
Yeah, I'm Rodrigo from Post-Hardcore BR and Japinha Talk Show, and Gabriel from Millo. Say hi, Gabriel.
Hi.
Okay, so we will do an interview with Joseph, that is an amazing drummer, playing a lot of cool bands, and a lot of stuff over these years. And we will talk about everything you did to here. So at first, tell us about how do you get introduced to music, how do you start to like music in general, and how do you decide to want to create music, play music, how you choose drums? Tell us about your early days.
Okay, yeah, so I can kind of put my early years in a box musically. I played piano in a small town in Utah growing up. And my mother and father are both artists. My father is a professional playwright and actor, and my mother was a musician. She is, but she was, she would play piano. I would wake up every Saturday morning and she'd be playing piano and singing upstairs. And so I did come from an artistic background, whatever you want.
Was born,
yeah, it was around me. The creative, there was a big focus on creativity and all that stuff. And so I had played piano up until, and I didn't really like piano that much. I played it, like I took lessons from like a teacher, but I wasn't really that into it. It was just sort of something for me to do after school. But I remember when I was 11, I was moving from what in Utah and in the States, we were going from elementary school into junior high. So that was from 11 to maybe 12 years old. You had to pick an instrument for the new school. So now you're going from a smaller school to a school where they have band classes and orchestra, jazz band and stuff. And I was not interested. I didn't care. I was like, I want to do other things. I wasn't interested in music. But this little troupe of kids from the school would come around and show us what we could do. And they were showcasing the brass instruments, the string instruments. They all seemed pretty boring. No offense to all those, but I was just like, I don't really care about this. But then there's this kid sitting down on a drum set, and he played this goofy little drum solo. And I had never thought about that before. And when he did that, it just struck me. I was like, oh my gosh, a drum set? I forgot about that instrument. And I was hooked instantly. So I auditioned for it. They let me do it. And from there, I had to work on like rudiments and technique first. And I did a lot of like, John Williams medleys and stuff in my orchestral band where I was playing bass drum or just suspended cymbal or triangle. I had to pay my dues. And then finally, by the age 14, my parents were able to afford a cheap, beginner's drum set. And my parents to this day tell me that when I was playing my drum set, they had no idea that it was going to turn into a career. They were like, oh, this is just a phase. He's just down there just smashing stuff and playing drums. And from there, I was just obsessed. One of the things that benefited me greatly is in high school, I got into jazz band, and I was very into jazz band, but I also was in the drum line. So I was working on my rudiments and marching stuff, getting my rudiments in my hands in shape. And then I was also playing in a punk rock band called Pork Chop. And we played on the weekends. This was in the 90s, so this was like ska punk days. And so I was playing punk rock, jazz band, drum line. So I wasn't thinking I care about one genre, or I just loved it all. The drum, just anything drum set. I was like, this is so sick. And so, and so that kind of carried me out of high school into being in some bands. And so that's the origins of all that. So. Yeah.
Cool. One point that I want to talk about is when you say when you go to school, you have to pick an instrument, and it's like everyone has to do that. and that's a difference. Schools in Brazil, you don't have this. Occasionally, we have a party or something like and punctual event that kids do one song just to play to the parents in some kind of part.
Right.
But there's no like music education in schools. You have to learn by your own. And here in Japan, also there's music lessons when you in high school and you have to pick an instrument. I think maybe like you say, it was pretty boring to have to play some classic stuff and this kind of thing. Maybe you don't realize that you want to play music by just playing things they say you have played these songs to graduate. I think when you start to create, like when you say you start to play jazz, that maybe was more freely for you to create in something like was cool part of everything.
Yeah, I think the goal, and I realized that, in the town I was in, the city I was in, I realized that at the time I was just like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm just playing drums at this age, and this is what everybody's doing. But now as an adult man, I look back and I'm very grateful for the opportunity, right? I recognize that it's an opportunity that I had that not everybody has. And so that's why I don't take it for granted. And I think the aim for that sort of public education school, like music involvement, is to really, on one hand, it kind of worked. It gave me opportunities to look at multiple genres and be like, well, what do I like? What do I don't like? Or what do I not like, right? So maybe I was going to become a percussionist. Maybe I would decide I don't like music. Who knows? But it gives me options to sort of exhaust. And what I found is that I liked every aspect of the instrument. That whether I was playing snare drum in an orchestral setting, or I was playing jazz band, or I liked it all. And so and that's one thing I liked about it, was that I found out that I liked playing all of the genres, all the concepts. They all resonated with me. So
yeah, I think it's good to be introduced to all these genres when you're young, because it's kind of easier to accept everything in process. And like
pergunta sobre música brasileira também, sobre o que
sure.
Samba, bossa nova.
Do you know some regional music of Brazil, like samba, bossa nova, and this kind of stuff?
Yes. I'm not an expert at it, but I actually did, interestingly enough, incorporate very heavily samba, bossa nova, partido alto.
Partido alto.
Oh yeah, and
it's very popular when Gabriel leaves.
Yes, and these are also very different. I'm sure that I've assimilated it different because of the way I'm a United States young teenage drummer. So when someone says samba, what I didn't realize at the time was this originated so long ago and became like parade rhythm stuff. To me, it was just boom, chicka-gong, 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 chicka-gong. But I also learned over time that it actually represented a much broader style of exciting music and stuff. And so I'm not an expert at it, but I've studied that stuff very deeply. Another style is baio, B-A-I-A-O, baio, which is and a lot of this stuff is assimilated sort of culturally into what we loosely call, or what we all loosely call, Latin jazz, which is they all kind of become one idea.
Yeah, I think when bossa nova breaks through from Brazil and started to play around the world, was very successful in Europe, and it become kind of fancy style of song what rich people like to, because it was smoother and it's cool to hear while you're walking and shopping. And till nowadays, even in Japanese Japanese malls, you start to hear some bossa nova playing in the background. So I think maybe some drummers, some artists didn't even realize that this bossa nova, but it was so spread to the world that you became popular, because it becomes like I think you a lot of people can put in a song. Like I heard a song from Entre called Gap in Defense, and it's kind of bossa nova,
Yeah.
chords and drums. So
Well, what's interesting?
whoa.
Yeah, what's interesting about cultural rhythms, and this is, I mean, this is a big conversation. This could become a whole other conversation, but
yeah,
I mean, when we're talking, because Brazilian and sort of ethnocentric Brazilian roots are one thing, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but I've studied them enough to know. And then you have the Afro-Cuban stuff, which is like the bembe, the merengue. You have Cuban salsa music, all that stuff. It all worked its way into the States long ago, and then and sort of worked its way into the jazz circuit. So jazz, blues, and then Brazilian and Afro-Cuban stuff, all literally, in my opinion, maybe mixed with some classical music and some sort of Quaker stuff and folk music, became what music is today. So like when people talk about the one bar clave, which is, that's the most universal rhythm on the planet. And you can find that in both Brazilian music and Brazilian rhythms and Afro-Cuban rhythms. And people don't even know that this stuff comes from that. You know, they don't think about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a tribal thing, right? Yeah, so they play to like the kind of celebration or party around the fire and things.
All
kind of stuff.
All the music we listen to now comes from those roots. And so, you know, but now we're doing incredible things with that. You look at the musicians that are on the scene these days, it's important to know where it comes from, but look at where we've gone. It's just insane what people can do.
There's an insane variation of styles mixing together.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about multicultural, you know, sort of genres and ideas, is that it's like anything. It's like food, right? The joining of forces from multiple cultures to make better food or more interesting this, or, you know, so I did grow up with a strong focus on Afro-Cuban and Brazilian rhythms, which helped my playing so much. Like that, I owe most of my playing to that stuff. So
yeah, now that you say about that briefing, I just remind of a lot like Bird's song came to my mind. Oh, I get it. I get the reference.
Yeah, there's some like, I can't believe we went there, but a lot like Birds and Sianvar and some of the bands actually like put some sort of Afro-Cuban kind of Brazilian feeling. And I know they're different in origin, but there are a lot of similarities there. So it kind of blurs the lines, you know. But anyway,
cool. I don't know if it's right, but I have your discography here, and
that's okay.
It says that your first album that you played at was Like Birds 2013 album. Is it right?
The first album I ever recorded with them.
Yeah, I don't know. It starts with this. I don't know if there's something for that they don't put in here, but
that's okay.
There's a question for you. What was the first album that you play at, and what's the order of the bands that you played?
Okay, so a little sort of chronological bands. I can try to put this together. So in 2010, at the very beginning of 2010, I moved to Sacramento and I joined A Lot Like Birds. Kurt Travis joined soon after I joined, and I actually didn't know who Kurt was at the time. I had no idea. And they were all excited about him, but I was like, I don't know who Gavin Dance is. I don't know who any of these people are. I had moved to Sacramento from Utah. I was a small town guy. Didn't really know all these bands. But Kurt and I became good friends, and I really respected him as a singer. We recorded an album with a record deal in 2011, and that's Conversation Piece. And then we started touring that record hard at the beginning of 2012. We recorded and released No Place in 2013, and right after that is when I also started a side project, Sianvar. At the very beginning of 2014, A Lot Like Birds and Sianvar were both touring pretty consistently. A Lot Like Birds did Warped Tour 2014. At the time, I was also starting to record side projects. I recorded for Damien from So Much Light. I recorded for Kurt on his solo stuff and some other local things. I also was playing for jazz trios around Sacramento, and I played for a funk band called Zug. Played a lot of reggae festivals in Northern California in 2013. I was absolutely all over the place. So come into 2015, 2016, Sianvar was actually the most active. At the time, I also played on Michael's solo project, Alone, Michael Franzino from Birds. In 2016, Sianvar recorded and toured Stay Lost, and I was still doing side projects as well. And from there, I mean, I've consistently done, I did, Bird's final record, Divisi, in 2017. I did Kurt's, I did 2 solo records for Kurt, 2 full-length solo records for Kurt. And then in 2017 was when Sergio asked me to record some drums for a solo project. And he just, because Sergio and I just can't stop making music. We just don't quit. We just never, ever stop creating.
I see. So, do you pass a year for release album or something like?
We don't want to be bored musically. We just, every time I put something out, I'm like, I could put something out better than that. that's
see you next time, guys.
Yes. So when I recorded those solo songs for Sergio, he ended up not like, he was going to sing on it, but then he decided not to. And then he decided to have Kurt sing on it, which wasn't even my choice. He just sort of hit Kurt up, and Kurt wasn't in Birds. And he said, hey, you want to sing on this? And Kurt said, I really like these songs. So that, what was supposed to be a solo project for Sergio, became Royal Coda. That was the first Royal Coda full length. And from there, bands come and go, bands break up. They, for a million different reasons.
Yeah, they became another bands.
I know.
And then this kind of messed up for me because to this Gavin Dance was okay. This Gavin Dance, we 2 singers, and then came a lot of like Birds and Sianvar. So I get messed with which band did what and who was playing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I mean, people say like, how did you juggle multiple bands, or what were you doing? Why were you doing that? And I don't really have an answer for that. I grew up listening to like Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, like that era of players, and they swapped musicians all the time. The jazz fusion scene, they're always taking out different drummers and stuff. And so I've always loved the idea of, why not work with somebody new? Like you're gonna feed off them. They're gonna give you new ideas. If you bring out a new guitarist, they're going to give you new inspirations that you never thought of before. And that to me was a really cool concept. And so it doesn't really work that way in the rock scene much, because when you're part of a band, it's like being in a club, right? Like you're part of this family, man. Like you're not going anywhere, which is okay. But I would come back from a lot like Birds tour, and I would be on my drum set the day after I got home. I didn't want to stop making music. I was just always thirsty.
Someone say, hey, stop these guys. What's your stuff?
Yeah. And so while everybody else kind of went back to their life, I was just nothing but music. And so when Sergio and I met, and when Will Swan and I met, we found out that we were all similar. We were really thirsty. So
that's also just stuff.
Yeah. That's how Sianvar started. Sergio and Will and I toured together, and I said, I'd really like to jam with someone new and just make some new music. He said, me too. And Will said, me too. So I think we wrote and recorded the Sianvar EP in 1 week. We wrote like all 5 songs and just knocked it out that weekend. And
wasn't it to be about a big deal, and it became what it is.
Yeah, we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. We were just like, I don't know.
Something to fill the time.
Yeah, we're just going to record some songs. And admittedly, Will Swan's presence gave it some steam. But Will is an incredible musician to work with. And, I'm very grateful for not only his musicianship, but also his friendship. He's a great guy. So that's been a great relationship. But I never know what is coming out of these things. I never know what to expect from them. You plant seeds, right? You make honest music and then see what happens. So
yeah, that's crazy, because the first time I heard this Gavin Dance was Downtown Battle, the part 1 rapper, and there was Johnny Craig and Wilson and all the guys, and was something different for everything that we had in the scene at the time. It was had so much groove and a lot of elements that was just breakdowns and hips put together. And was something that I say, wow, these guys did something amazing, but what did we do next? And then next album was with Kurt Travis. That was the second album. And it changed everything, because I think when changed for Kurt from Johnny Craig for Kurt Travis, they say, wow, this guy has his style, let's do his way. And everything this did was like something, the music was alive. It was like you say, this is the limit they can reach. And after that, every band that came from that point that became a scene, like now you guys have the Swan Car. And something, I don't know, for me sounds like not a genre, but a local scene, but there are bands around the world doing the same thing. Like I think one day Swan Car will be the style itself,
right?
And you're a big part of this. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting myself into or anything. I didn't have any goal. In fact, to this day, still at my age now, I don't have any goal other than to just work with musicians I respect and like create with other people that are creating stuff that is interesting to me. I think I did have a little while where I kind of was hoping that maybe I'd get picked up by like a big famous band, like a big stadium rock band, where I could just, there's some, that's kind of a dream to like, have a really ridiculous salary and just play 2 tours a year on giant festival stages. And then
pass the rest of the year spending money.
Yeah. But, and not a lot of really shreddy music makes it to that stage, which is okay. But I mean, at this point in my adult life, I'm not concerned about being famous. I'm not concerned about making a fortune. I just love creating with other players. And I think Royal Coda is probably the most, I hesitate to say this with very specific words, but I love what Royal Coda has become band-wise. Those guys are level-headed. We're all very adult. We're all on the same page. There's no drama. There's no strange sort of like, what are we going to do? It's awesome. So Royal Coda is a very, if all of this was leading up to Royal Coda, it was worth every step. So,
That's amazing. Because I don't know, I think that everybody join a band and say, what's my goal? And the imagines playing at stadium, like
right.
Metallica, like Bon Jovi.
Make money. Yep.
Maybe when they start playing in stadiums, they say, well, I think I like more the small venues and this kind of stuff. That bands that work better, like Nirvana used to work better in small venues than stadiums. I don't know, maybe it's a particular thing of each people, but that's awesome that you don't put I have a goal. I will create to
yeah,
because what I like to do, and that's all.
Yeah, and it's okay to have. I mean, it's completely okay for musicians to have aspirations to be successful. I mean, if like
there's nothing bad in have money.
No, yeah, and I live in Nashville, so I'm surrounded by like these professional country drummers and like this scene of people who are gunning for that spot to be, to drum for, Carrie Underwood. There's all the musicians around here are trying to play for those big artists and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, But at the same time, like I just don't fit in that box, and I never really have. I kind of tried to force myself into that box a few times, playing for some pop artists and some country artists, but it's just, I think they could feel it wasn't really for me. So, like
I was talking about all these bands it's from car bands, and there's a label, the Blue Swan. Can you tell us about how is the Blue Swan? How do you guys like I say that you didn't get this Gavin Dance since the moment you started playing Kurt, but how is inside? Everyone is like you, like we have to make music and don't stop, never.
Yeah.
How
Do you want
work?
a little bit of a history of Blue Swan and how that all transpired?
Sorry.
Do you want like a hit kind of how Blue Swan Records came
Yeah, I
together?
can tell the reason how everything of this happened, because like is a label that polarized all the good musicians of the scene, and I think that
Yeah.
might be amazing to play work with them.
Yeah, I think I mean, even though I had not heard of Gavin Dance, they obviously created a niche for themselves. And I'm well aware that Gavin Dance, even though I've never really listened to them, they are my friends, and they are because I don't listen to rock music really, but they obviously carved out a niche for themselves. This kind of sound that was, screaming, singing, and this kind of shreddy stuff, but still accessible and listenable and poppy. Whatever you want to call them. I guess the Swan Core umbrella is what we're going to call it, but which I think is funny. But Will, when Sianvar happened, Will was also thinking of starting a label because he had money and he wanted to help smaller artists get somewhere. So he started it on his own. Sergio soon joined him as like sort of his assistant vice president business partner. And for years, Blue Swan was just the two of them. They would give bands budgets. They believed in them. These bands weren't crazy accessible. They weren't like pop bands. These were like shreddy, crazy bands like Idola and stuff. It's not stuff you're going to hear on the radio anytime soon, unfortunately. But you get what I mean. He was just trying to give a platform to bands that he thought deserved it. Not all of them worked out. That's okay. That's how labels work.
Yeah, it was great that they stand still in the point.
Yeah. So Gavin Dance started doing really well with Tillian and new management and all kinds of stuff. And Gavin Dance started to really blow up. And that just gave Will more of a platform to take bands out on tour and give them budgets and all kinds of stuff. And the budgets aren't that crazy. That's what's amazing. Nowadays, you can make an amazing sounding record on not that insane a budget comparatively. Yeah. You don't need a $50,000 budget to make a good sounding record. So I did get, I won't say lucky, because I don't even like the word lucky, because I think, it's circumstance versus hard work.
Yeah, you have to still struggling at that.
Right. I tell all my students this. It's not luck, because your opportunity is going to show up. You have to be ready for it when it comes. But I have been in the bands with Will, and he's obviously going to take care of the bands that he's playing guitar for, because he's very passionate about them. And so, the bands that I've been a part of have gotten that kind of extra push. So it felt, I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, and now, now he's to the point where now Blue Swan is a subsidiary of Rise Records and BMG Music, which we never anticipated. We just didn't know that was coming. And with that, Royal Coda got some new management and all kinds of stuff. So the story is basically just Will has a big platform, and he's financially stable, and he just wanted to see bands grow. He wanted to see his friends grow. It's a rare story because it's super genuine. He wasn't trying to make a fortune off of it. He wasn't trying to make some crazy profit. Most of the bands that he's taken on, he really doesn't make crazy money off of. He's just he doesn't need to make money from them. He's literally just into bands and music and trying to lift them up. So it's been cool to watch him do that. So.
Oh, that's great. It wasn't about making it. It was the keep the bands playing and releasing stuff. Like eventually, I think money will come, but I think when you start a business, you want to see results more immediately. So it has to be focus on that when you have, like you say, the goal that Will has was do a solid platform for his friends and people he believed in to grow up in the scene, right?
Yeah, it's just, and he was definitely able to do it because he was financially stable. If you're starting a record label, which is a really risky thing to do, because labels
nowadays that you
even
have Spotify and all those platforms there,
even well into record labels, years, they're not making a lot. It depends on the label, of course. Some do, some don't. But it's a very risky thing to do. But I think it's because he was financially stable and able to front the money for things that. But he's recouped. I mean, he told me that most bands he was able to recoup, and he also cut really solid royalty deals with the bands. So the bands are actually making money from their records instead of just feeding the machine the whole time.
Cool.
But he was in a unique position to be able to start something, because most, not just in the music industry, but most small businesses in the first 3 to 5 years don't make much profit. You're paying back loans, you're all that stuff.
You spend a lot of money to start to make a little bit of money. Had to struggle on that.
It's like someone who starts a restaurant and they're at the restaurant for 5 years straight running it, and then finally you start to see profit roll in after you pay off your business loans. And and the music industry is unique, but it's really not that different. You have to invest in something that's going to sell, that's going to make money, and there's a business aspect to it. You can't just put out any band. You have to pick stuff that's going to potentially recoup the money. Most people in the industry don't really think about where the money's actually coming from. Most people are very angry they don't make money, but they don't sit to think about where it's even coming from. They're upset about, well, I'm not getting paid, or I'm not getting fed at venues, or I'm not coming home from tour with enough money. It's like, well, where do you think this money's coming from? You have to think about that. And it's hard when you mix art with business, because everyone feels like they're creating this stuff that's just gonna blow everyone's mind, and we have this amazing music, but like it has to sell at some point, otherwise the machine doesn't work. It has to at least sell a little bit.
It has been since ever like this. But
people have to come out to shows at some point, otherwise, if you play a show and only 5 people are there, but then you're really mad that you didn't get paid $500, it's like, I mean, that's
I have to play. That's my job. Sorry for not being
I've
crowded.
been there. So.
But I think it happens with all the bands in the start. I think it kind of can be something bad, like you say, oh, what are you doing? There's 5 people watching us. But also when you keep putting in your mind that you have to play for 5 people, like you have to for 5,000 people, and is the point when you say I am a professional musician?
Yeah, and that's just it. Is like I still to this day don't. I wouldn't say I fully pay my bills with music. I mean, my wife and I both have, we have combined income and whatnot, and it's blurry there because, but I'm also, like I said, I'm not trying to be a sort of stadium rock drummer. I'm able enough in my life to work with music, to choose the musicians I work with. I call them playground gigs, where like I'll play, jazz fusion, Herbie Hancock covers and stuff for no money at all, just because I'll play in a small club. I just want to play with good musicians and have some fun.
Like people like to play video games, like to play jazz
in
the bar.
Completely nuts, have some fun, in like a club. That's like a vacation. That's like, I just want to play and have fun. But
why do you're working when you have a vacation? This is my fun. It's not work.
Yeah, exactly. But if I'm on tour, if I am on tour for a month at a time, I have to be able to pay my bills and come back and have that last and stuff. So that's why, man, the Royal Coda was about to do the biggest tour of our career right before the pandemic hysteria sort of happened, and so that had
a word breakdown.
And we don't have to dwell on that.
Yeah, we can't do anything about it.
It's okay.
But like in pandemic times, I think a lot of bands have to reimagine how to stay active band. Like there was a lot of live transmissions, and also a lot of collaborations. That was the point that you met Gabriel, right? And it happened like I think when he told me, I said no way. He said, he answered me, and he said yes. And after that, he showed me that you were creating some lines. I say, whoa, man, this is great, this is awesome.
That song is so good. That song actually brought me to tears.
Yeah, so exactly that. And Gabriel is an amazing musician. He's also my musician teacher.
Amazing musician.
Yeah,
Amazing
he stopped
singer.
to study music years ago, and he's an awesome teacher. I like jumping from levels that in years I haven't reached. But and he also has a lot of this that you were talking about. Like every time he called me, hey, check this out. He creates this, and always is something different, something harder than before. I think that he's a guy with this mindset that you and Wilson and these guys had. Então, Gabriel, eu tô falando que ele falou que ele é tipo workaholic, né? Tipo, ele toca, não workaholic, mas ele gosta de tocar o tempo todo, né? Então, quando ele tá tipo nas folgas dele, ele vai pro barzinho de jazz e toca, né? Aí eu falei, você também é assim, cara, tipo, quando você me liga e tal, eu falo, olha isso aqui que eu tô compondo agora, sempre é uma coisa diferente, uma ideia diferente.
Eu comentei com você, né, que quando o Joseph gravou as baterias da música, ele fez, assim, um tempo muito rápido, né?
Uhum.
Então, eu já percebi isso, assim, isso é muito legal. Fala isso pra ele aqui.
E ele mandou vários takes, né? Hey, Joseph, he's still involved, like, when you guys decided to do that collaboration and he sent you the track. And you answer very quick with the tracks and a lot of options, like choose one. And
so I'm like, when I demo for people, I actually have very little ego about the stuff I create. Meaning, my drum parts, if someone doesn't like a drum part, I'm probably going to use it somewhere else. So I don't have this. Maybe I should, but I don't have this ego of like, well, if you don't like it, then don't use it. Or tough, because that's the part I wrote. I actually like it when people don't resonate with, sorry, I got my in-ears putting in here. But I actually like it when people don't like parts sometimes, or choose something over another, or ask for something different, because it gives me a new lens to look at it through.
Yeah, like when you're in your own band, you have to tell your way to work, like playing with another band, even when it's on one song that already was composed. I think you like can't change everything. You have to play your way in their styles, kind of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him a few options. I think I don't remember perfectly, but I think I gave him a few options, and they came back with like hey, could maybe you play the crash here, or do like a bigger beat here, or things like that. And I look forward to that kind of feedback, because I want to know what people want. I don't, and sometimes there are things that I hadn't thought of, right? Like maybe people want it to be bigger sounding or more quiet dynamically or something. And that stuff, that's good feedback. In fact, I'm writing a record right now. This has been secret up until now, but Kurt and Brandon Ewing from Eternity Forever, we are actually writing a record right now. And I'm playing drums on it. And I've been going back and forth with Kurt and Brandon. And it's been great, because I'll send them I'll send them entire songs with drums. And they come back with a lot of notes. And that's okay. That doesn't bruise my ego. They say, hey, this part could be quieter. Put more fills in this part, but less fills here. I love that stuff. I love having those sort of musical parameters that somebody else hears that I may not have heard. Especially because when people are writing melodies and choruses, and I may not know what their ultimate goal is as a drummer. And so I like that back and forth. And I was able to do that with Gabriel. Like Gabriel.
I don't know how I have to speak, but it's okay.
My name is boring, so I always get everybody else's wrong. But I liked going back and forth with him on, well, this part should be a little bit more this way, a little bit more that way. And that back and forth, that's a good collaboration. You're not just settling for the first, and I am an improvisational player, so a lot of stuff I kind of come up with on the fly. That comes from my jazz days. But then again, I mean, and it's not even about the work put in or being paid or any of that. It's getting the song right. And then what's funny is when he came back and said, hey, could you make a few changes here and there? I implement those changes and I'm like, whoa, that does feel good. That made sense. And so, I mean, you got to trust the musicians you're working with.
It's something like when you're recording like in each country, it's not the same that you're in a studio, you can re-record something, re-record all the ways you want and listen all together. It's really something that you have to do to reach that better result that you usually do in the studio. But also, I think maybe it's kind of hard, like we're picking our drone hero to play our songs, and we're gonna say him how to play the but that's cool that you guys have this feeling of how changes are important, how other point of views are important.
Oh, I was amazed. I was amazed that someone from I was because I know you guys appreciate what I do, but I mean I went to my wife and I was like, Tara, these guys from Brazil want me to play on their music. This is so cool. I was like, I'm gonna play drums for a Brazilian band. This is insane. I was amazed. I was like, wow.
Yeah, when you decided, oh my god, they like your song. Wow, that's amazing, man.
And my dad went on an LDS, a religious mission in Brazil when he was younger, and so I called my dad up because he's Portuguese and everything. And I said, Dad, because I sent him the track, and I was like, Dad, check this out. He's like, whoa, this is so cool. So it was kind of poetic. That I mean, I guess it could have been any country in the world, but it was one that I had learned a lot about growing up, and my father had been there, and you know. Guaraná, right? Cheers. I don't know that much, but it had a kind of a special place in my heart. So I was like, wow, I get to play for a Brazilian band. That's cool. So I was amazed. I was excited. So.
Yeah, something like nowadays that it happening more. Like Let Live, he recorded with Jason from Let Live now. He's in Fever 223. And we recorded with a Brazilian band called Fresno. That is a huge band in Brazil. I don't know if you heard about that. And there's also a band, friends of mine. It's called Heart Listener. And Garrett Rapp from The Color Morality recorded with them. It was something like that. Like we send an email, he said yes, and everyone say, "Well, no way, he accepted." And it's happening. I think he interacts. It's making everything easier. And like you say, nowadays you can do music in your house if not that expensive, but
yeah.
Just stop creating and recording and sharing. I think today it's easier to share things you record to people, to your band's mates, to then just figure out how they will do their parts before you have to go to studio and do the usual way to create a song.
Yeah, what a time to be alive, right? I mean, with the digital age, we can just collaborate from across the world. I mean, right now we're in 3 different parts of the world.
Yeah, that's crazy. And
it's easy for people to take it for granted, right? Like well, Zoom and whatever, internet.
Yeah,
the fact that we can collaborate and I can record drums for somebody in Brazil and we can just send. I mean, I was able to track the drums and send them the file like that. Like it just. We were talking over WhatsApp and I was just like, hey, do you like this? It took seconds. It's crazy.
Chique. Fala para ele que eu não sei onde que eles estão agora.
Como assim? Não, a gente tá falando de como foi a colaboração, né? De como foi, ele falou que mostrou pro pai dele que fala português, né? Foi missionário no Brasil. Aí falou, olha isso, eu vou tocar com o pessoal lá do Brasil, né? E o pai dele ouviu e falou, caralho, que lindo, né? E falou que para ele sou poético desde a primeira ouvida, né? Aí eu também tô falando que igual ele tá falando que hoje em dia a gente não precisa de um equipamento tão caro para gravar música, né? Para fazer uma música de boa qualidade. Eu falei, não, hoje em dia você consegue criar na sua casa, né? Compartilhar. E essa coisa de compartilhamento é legal, né? Tipo, você cria um riff em casa, manda pro seu baterista, ele vai pensando no que ele vai fazer, né? Antes de você ir pro estúdio. Acho que otimiza o tempo, né? E também permite essas coisas de compor com um cara do outro lado do mundo, tá? Sem atrapalhar a
Fala
agenda
pra ele
dele,
que a gente vai compor mais coisas juntos, tem coisas novas aí. Eu tenho que mandar para ele ainda.
Yeah, and also Gabriel is saying he's already created some new stuff to show you to maybe any future collaborations. I don't know, maybe new songs.
Yeah, I mean, I also, it's funny because I really don't charge a lot to play a lot of the time because I like collaborating. I mean, a lot of times it's like, hey, you want to collaborate? You have to take yourself seriously enough to charge something because it's, you know, that obviously. But when he and I were talking, a lot of times it's kind of like a name your price kind of thing because I'm like, I have to be paid something, but I want to make music. You know, I just want to create, and so it's. And I always love to collaborate. And actually, my studio setting for recording my own drums is getting better and better. I'm getting more microphones and getting better at recording. I'm very close to being able to really record really like epic studio quality drums. Although the drums that I got for them before were really good, but you know, there's always room to improve and whatnot. So, and they can mix it on their end. You know, as long as I capture it well, they can mix it on their end and whatnot. So,
yeah. Sorry,
Parte das bandas ou como é que tá aí?
A gente tá falando da colaboração, né? Ele falou do estúdio, né? Que agora ele tipo, tá terminando de montar o estúdio do jeito que ele quer, né? E tá quase do jeito que tipo, eu tô gravar um world class, tipo, nível de bateria, né? Tipo, mas ele falou que
Legal.
o clima pra você também é bom, né? Tipo, deixa você captar bem, tipo, não pega muita interferência, consegue trabalhar no som, né? Então, mas a mão do produtor mesmo que vai estar ali, né?
Ah, legal. Legal.
Você tem alguma coisa para perguntar que eu ia fazer uma pergunta que eu meio que perdi quando ele respondeu?
Cara, eu queria perguntar para ele sobre a relação dele com a Blue Swan, em relação a... Eu já até conversei um pouco com isso sobre ele, assim, e como é trabalhar com a Blue Swan, tipo, o que ele faz exatamente dentro da Blue Swan, como é que é, assim?
Acho que ele falou aqui, eu não entendi se ele falou sobre ele mesmo, né? Que ele falou, acho que ele é... Hey, just... What is your position at Busan? I think you told me, but I forget yours.
What's
like you
position?
Inside the Blue Swan, you are only a musician, or you have some business?
Pergunta também, o Heltic, pergunta sobre o termo também swancore, o que ele acha sobre esse termo, se ele sabe, entende, tipo, como é visto isso lá?
Certo. Yeah, the first question is this one, like inside the label, what you do beside playing drums or
like outside of playing, what's my role?
Yeah, you have some.
I don't have a role. I'm actually not part of Blue Swans.
Just
just the drummer. I wish I was a little more business minded or a little more in that world. I've tried to dip into it a little bit, but I kind of let people make decisions for me in that world. But although I will say that if anything, I end up being a little bit of a scout because Will and Sergio are always asking me to send them music. They trust me musically, and so I'll send them bands and things that I think are worthwhile, and it's usually just on my own, you know. So that's about as far as it gets, but I'm not necessarily part of Blue Swan.
The other question was about the term swancore, like I was talking for. Like for me, it sounds more like a local scene, but also it's different for everything. How do you guys see inside of swancore? Do you guys say, yeah, let's do some swancore, or something like a joke for the fans? How do
Swancore has come 100% from people listening trying to put it into a box, which isn't a bad thing because genres are a box, right? It's a category. So like punk or, you know, metal or and so
electronic
genres are a good thing in that they help people
to find related artists.
Yeah, they relate, they compartmentalize something so that, for instance, if I hear a song I like, I want to listen to more of that because maybe I've never heard that before. The first thing you're going to do is try to...
I think when you find a new style that you like, the first thing you do is there's more bands doing that.
Yes,
kind of
like
stuff.
what style is this, right? And some bands don't fit in boxes. Like look at the band the Mars Volta. Like, how do you put the Mars Volta into a genre?
There's salsa and
it's
progressive.
It's like Latin progressive.
I think it's crazy even for you and the Suncore guys, right?
Yeah. So, but so many bands still, because even Sianvar will come up on like a Mars Volta station, but will also come up on, it's just ridiculous. So there are bands that are sort of genre defying, and then you start to create new sort of subgenres, right? You have progressive rock, you have progressive metal, you have progressive gent metal, and you have like gent, and
gent is also a genre that is
never ending.
Maybe
that's fine.
Gent, I'm not sure if it's really what I think about is what people call gent, but it becomes so popular, and also Suncore becomes popular. I see a video of I don't know if you know the guy, Punk Rock MBA, has a podcast and YouTube channel.
But that's okay.
It's awesome. He said a lot about the history of some points of the scene. And this did a video about the Suncore and why is Suncore so big, and a lot of it has support from the fan base of this Gavin Dance. That's like he says one of craziest fan base of the America. Like the Black Veil Brides has a huge fan base that supports a lot.
Yeah,
that's totally different style. But the Suncore fan base, I think they know that is a unique style. They have support to exist.
I think so. The way I look at it is, in the early 2000s, you had bands like Under Oath and bands that were sort of pop, and then you had bands that were making screaming and heavy music much more popular. Like I was on Warped Tour 2005, where bands like Atreyu and Avenged Sevenfold were blowing up, and I never pictured that bands that had that much screaming and that much heavy stuff would actually blow up like that. I mean, Atreyu and Avenged Sevenfold's early records were super heavy.
Yeah, the first one, when they were in the Victor Records.
And then they started sounding like Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, and I was like, I can't.
I saw them here in Japan. They play a version that you give blah 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 name.
Yeah. So, and I think from there, heavy music kind of found a place, and then the metalcore thing happened, which I wasn't into, but like bands like We Came as Romans and Sleeping with Sirens and Of Mice and Men started.
Because you were touring together, right?
With We Came as Romans.
No, like these bands you
all those bands
participated directly at that, but we were beside them in tours and like corporate tour.
Let's see, at that time, yeah, I mean those bands were blowing up, and like when those bands
like 2007, 6, 7 maybe.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't doing
big
much at the time.
2000. At least in Brazil, 2012 was huge, and after that, I think feeling saturated, but maybe that was a lot thing.
Yeah, that happens with a lot of genres. It blows up for a second, and then it gets overdone, right? Even all those heavy bands started becoming poppier and poppier and poppier because they realized they needed to push records and sell more. And a lot of these band members also start to realize that maybe they don't just want to party on tour for the rest of their lives. Maybe they want to have a wife and kids someday. Or maybe
stop touring.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. And so, in fact, I've watched a lot of musicians go through that, where they go from heavy partying and heavy drinking and heavy just having fun and just sort of to all of a sudden realizing, whoa, I could actually legitimately pay for the rest of my life with this if I take it seriously and be a little healthier about it. But from a lot of that, I had not heard of Gavin Dance until I moved to California. But when I first heard them, someone showed me their music, something clicked. I wasn't into it really, but I was like, wow, I can see why this is popular because it's just shreddy enough. It's just enough shred for like the musicians to like it. But the poppy, funky parts are so catchy. And like with Kurt's,
everything fits in a way that
it's almost contradictory. It's like you'll have Kurt singing this kind of R&B stuff, and then all of a sudden it'll just be this super heavy part with John Mess. And so I could very quickly see why it was popular and why it was growing. And I never thought once that I needed to fit into a swancore anything. In fact, I really don't listen to a lot of rock or heavy music at all. But I brought a sort of a jazz fusion style I guess if I had to explain it or put it in a box, to heavier music that made a lot like Birds interesting, right? It's funny because when people at shows ask me who my favorite drummers are, what kind of music I listen to, nothing I list is anything they've ever heard of. They're expecting me to say like a bunch of the bands in my scene, and I'm like, no, I don't listen to any of those guys. They're all my friends. I respect them, but I don't. That's not the stuff I listen to. And
yeah, so, you have already a base before meeting, right?
Yeah, but Swancore came about because people were hearing something that was different enough from what they'd heard before, and hardcore music, was around, and this sort of like hardcore, like post-hardcore stuff, which is really just a way of describing music that was heavy but still kind of accessible.
Yeah, there was little jumps from the post-hardcore and metalcore bands that let's put some electronic, like for heavier breakdowns, like lower the tunes. But this really brought another thing that ran together all the whole music, and I think this is the spine of the Swancore kind of bands.
Yeah, and I think Swancore, the reason why Swancore, the word, or that, I mean, it's funny because Swancore, I mean, it's literally Will's last name, so it's kind of funny. But it does kind of give a genre home for a lot of bands that potentially may not quite fit in other boxes. So that's my description of, bands like to think about like Idola, Royal Coda, Sianvar, bands like that. It's hard to put them in like a rock hardcore.
Yeah, I think before they used this term Swancore, I used to call it, but something like this Gavin Dance music.
Yeah, I mean, with Royal Coda,
I couldn't say just it's post-hardcore music because was seeing something that it came from post-hardcore, but there's a lot of things that, like you say, it comes from rhythms like samba, like Mars Volta did with salsa, just things that you don't usually see. I think the rock musicians didn't even study this, like salsa in their classes.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess a lot of the parts, like there's a song in Sianvar, there's a song by Sianvar called Foxholes and Deities, and this is getting really nerdy, but there's the bridge is what's called a songo, which is it's like a sort of a Cuban salsa funk drum groove called the songo. It's also a music style, but it's got popular.
I think it's something more to dance, like more rhythm.
Yes, exactly. It's like funky, Cuban music rhythm. But I added an extra 3 beats to that to make the songo in 7/8, and so that song is in an odd time signature, and I put the songo in it, and so I don't think people are thinking, oh, this sounds Afro-Cuban, but it creates a groove that's just completely nuts. And so that's an example of sort of taking something with a cool cultural background, putting it in a setting like that, and then it creates these crazy.
I think you're touching. Here he is.
Yeah. So, and that's where that kind of cross-pollination of genres and cultural backgrounds, and that's why the melting pot is so cool. Because you really don't want any rules, right? Like, there's no rules. You just take the thing that sounds cool, feels good, put it in there, and see what happens.
That's amazing because, like when I used to saw your videos in workshops and this kind of stuff, I used to see like guys like from the Animals as Leaders, like Abasi is like a guy that is he's the concept of that way to play guitar. And also you, for me, I think for Gabriel, it was when you mind the Swancore and what the drums, what do you imagine that will be like? It was your style, and you saying like where it came from. And you saying also that don't listen to rock bands is something interesting because where is based in rock bands.
Pergunta para ele sobre a relação dele com a Achilles Priester também, que eu vi que eles são amigos do Angra.
So, Joseph, you know Achilles Priester from Angra?
Yes, I love that dude.
That is insanely
that dude is a monster.
Insanely fast. All the musicians in Angola are insanely fast and insanely virtuos. I saw a video for David 54 is a bassist that do videos in YouTube, and he does a challenge from speed bass, and Felipe Androli from Angra do the was nothing, and David 54 say obviously he's speeding up the video.
Yeah.
And also that was his response that no, I don't speed up, it's my technical stuff. So awesome. How is your relation with Chris Priester? Do you are a close friend of him, or?
We're buddies because we shared a tour together. We played a tour with Tony McAlpine was the drummer he was playing for, he's recorded for in the past. Really progressive, crazy music. And I played for an artist named Chris Shireman, who is a U.S. guitarist and progressive solo artist who has an insane record out, and I think he's writing one right now too. But I got hired by Shireman, and Achilles got hired by Tony. And so we actually even shared a tour bus, and we just became friends. Great guy. I admire him so much because he's the perfect example of somebody who, he's got this amazing fleshed out career as a drummer. He's been on so many records as a player, but he's also this he's got this scene of drummers that love to watch his videos. Plus, his identity is amazing. He created this, the octopus logo. He has his own brand, and he gets these drum sets.
And you can imagine octopus playing the drum.
Yeah, and I think that's his whole thing is check out all these things.
Exactly.
And his drum sets, he also made a name for himself by unapologetically setting up these massive drum kits with red drum heads, and everything's red and black and crazy looking. I had seen him before, on videos and stuff. I had never, and then when he got on the tour, I didn't really put two and two together. And I was like, that's the guy with the octopus stuff. And he's very meticulous, methodical. The way he takes care of his gear. He's very clean and respectable guy. I have a lot of respect for him. He cares about his family very much. He's got a family that he's very close to, and he just created this amazing sort of identity for himself as a drummer internationally. So we are, the most he does is comment on my social media, and he just says rock star with a skull or something. But we've stayed in touch loosely. I don't know when I'll see him again, but I got a lot of respect for that guy, and we had a great tour together.
But that kind of guy, you don't know when you see again, if you will, but when it happened, you guys have that connection the first time, something that music music gives to us. It's like a universal language.
You never know.
You don't have to speak perfectly. You guys did a song together without speaking the same language. So it's just a little. The translator can do the job.
Yeah, even Achilles, he has pretty good English.
Yeah, he's Angra. I think Angra is more successful around the world than Brazil, because in Brazil we also have the metal fan base, but metal is not the main music style in Brazil like it is in some place like Sweden even here in Japan.
Metal is huge in Europe and huge in Australia.
Also, there are some bands in Brazil, like Sepultura was, I think, is the most famous Brazilian band in the world. And after that, they are based in Brazil again, but they started living out in America. And at some point, we didn't see the Brazilian band anymore. And
United States does end up kind of being a hub for music because of the industry in the United States. It's just there's such a free music market in the United States, in that you can kind of choose whatever you want to do, and if you just put yourself out there and play gigs, which is a lot more accessible, here. So
because here in Brazil, band goes for tours 6-7 gigs, one in each state, and that's a successful tour for us. And we only see when Warburg Tour times the schedule of each band, aside the gigs out of Warburg was crazy. one show per day and
yeah, I think
keeping the credit.
I think a lot of it has to do with the size of the states too. The fact that the size of the United States is what it is, and it's all one country, that just means that you have so many markets that you can do without going international. So like you could do the California circuit, then you go down through Texas, which is probably the biggest market in the country. Texas alone pays for most people's tours. The market in Texas is massive. I don't know why.
I heard Linkin Park say once that they recorded live in Texas because everything in Texas is bigger.
Well, yeah, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's something in the water. I don't know, but people just love to come to shows in Texas. Massive concerts, massive. And then you have Florida, you have the East Coast, like New York and all that density. The Midwest gets a little spotty in the middle of the country. There's not as many big markets because there's just less people and less cities. But you can do like a 30-day run and play 28 shows, and I mean, that's insane, and you make really good money.
Yeah, I can imagine here in Brazil because we have it's more polarized. Like we have São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, the South, and maybe Curitiba and Porto Alegre, the two South cities. That wait, fala.
Só uma coisa, se tu quiser, eu não sei se ele tá com tempo, pergunta para ele como que tá o tempo dele, pra gente poder também fazer o negócio das bandas, entendeu?
Tá. Eu vou perguntar depois dessa. Beleza. Eu tava falando aqui das turnês, né? Tipo, pra gente é louco que a gente vê a agenda deles lá, tipo, na época da Orquestra, cara, eles falou, em 31 dias eles faziam 28 shows, né? E aqui pro Brasil, se a gente fizer 7 shows, tá ligado? Tipo, não tá nem sendo o mesmo, mas numa sequência já é uma turnê bem sucedida pra banda, né?
É, aqui no Brasil é. Sim.
So, coming back from what I was saying about Brazil, it's something like more polarized. When bands came to play here no, in Japan, but in Japan is also like Brazil. We have Nagoya, Tokyo, and Osaka. In Brazil, we have Rio de Janeiro, Porto Alegre, and São Paulo.
Yeah.
And there's the points that bands play because most of fans are there, and the other fans from around the country have to travel to
and that makes sense. That makes sense because, like, you know, like think about Japan. Like when I played Japan, we played Tokyo and Osaka, and I think most people who wanted to see the band they'd have to travel, right? You'd have to travel to Osaka to see the band play.
One of the reasons that I'm in Yokohama now is because it's closer to Tokyo. Because what I used to do most in my free time was see bands live. When I moved to here, it started the corona stuff and didn't help. But here's also kind of polarized. But in Japan, I think there's much more countryside and urban side contrast than Brazil.
Yeah, well, if you were to go to a small town in the United States, the chances are you're still going to find people that listen to a lot of the same stuff or would be willing to, like, if you were to go to like some...
A lot of small scenes, sub-scenes in the whole scene, right?
Yes, but if you were to go to like a tiny coastal city or village in Japan, chances are you're not going to see a lot of like rock concerts. It's specific to the hubs.
A person water with band shirts, but not. It's
not like big venues.
You can pay. We can pay the concert there.
Yeah.
And how was when you came to Japan? You playing like just you were playing Chiodos, right?
Yes, I was filling in. Chiodos hired me for a few tours, and I played. In 2015, we played Singapore, Thailand, and then we did an Australian circuit, which was about 7 shows. And then we flew to Japan and played Osaka, or we played Tokyo and then played Osaka. I was there for a total of 5 or 6 days, I think. And I loved my time in all those countries. I love them all for various reasons.
5 or 6 days in Japan or the whole...
in Japan alone.
Oh,
because we had some days off to kind of get our heads together after all the crazy travel.
Like the travel is really.
Yeah, Japan was amazing. I love the ramen, okonomiyaki. I can't say it. It's these like pancake they sort of make these like rice pancake meals.
I think I know what it is, but I lost another good
word. I'm gonna butcher it, but I love the culture there. The food was amazing. Just sightseeing in Tokyo alone was mind blowing. Tokyo, I have these incredible pictures of. We stayed in this hotel, and I was very, very high up, and so I could see so far out. Just incredible being.
Yeah, when you see all the lights, you see, oh, that's like watch like the game Cyberpunk when you see the trailers was something like that, more colorful and like organized. Like,
the density of the city.
Yeah, the big city, like this mega city, right?
Yeah, because I've always been a fan of like cyberpunk stuff, like cyberpunk futuristic sci-fi movies and stuff. In Tokyo, the sort of Neo Tokyo idea reminds me of that. Like I don't know if you guys have, like Akira, the anime.
Akira, I know.
Stuff like that. That Tokyo just reminds. I mean, I think Akira takes place in what they call Neo Tokyo. But that concept of like these just dense city at night with all the lights was really cool. So.
Yeah, but it's really crazy. But I don't know if it rained when you were here, but when it rains and the street gets full of water, the reflect of the lights is exactly like the arts of cyberpunk stuff.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Just
do
you have you're okay with time? You have something to do?
I got about another 15 minutes or so.
15 minutes, okay.
That'll put us at about an hour and a half.
What we were talking, we were thinking to do separate some Brazilian bands that maybe you didn't hear yet, but to show you and you say us what you think of, and just give you your point of view of Brazilian music, because like
you want to show me some.
Yeah.
You want to show me some stuff? Yeah.
Like a live reaction.
Okay.
Can you do that? Like
yeah.
We have 15 minutes aqui. Yeah, vamos fazer. I will put the whole song, and after that we talk about, see what you think about. And after that we finish the interview with a few more questions, but I think time will be okay.
Cool. Fala da Zebra
also. Você já falou para ele que ele criou?
Então, não falei. Ele vai saber agora.
Okay. Breaking news. Do you know that Gabriel is doing something like Will did with Blue Sun? He now opening his own label. Cool. It's called Zebra. Show the logo. What's the logo?
Right.
That's awesome.
Zebra.
That's cool.
And also he wants to get all the, like you say, all the bands that has no place in a specific scene or label, to put it together and move force to struggle in music industry, keep it relevant. Like we don't have a specific scene in Brazil for that kind of sound. I think will be something that we put in the map.
That's cool. That's awesome. Always support that. That's really great.
Que é incrível ele dar um maior apoio para isso. Então agora eu vou pôr algumas bandas. Qual que você acha que é melhor para colocar para ele?
Ele falou que vai dar para escutar? Como é que
tem uns 50 minutos, mais ou menos. Acho que a gente tem menos de meia hora, depois tem 20 minutos para a gente finalizar.
Então, coloca Plano Terra primeiro. Fala que é uma banda também que vai sair pelo Zebra. E fala que ele já ouviu a Millo, né? Que não precisa mostrar.
Okay. I think you already know a Brazilian band, like Gabriel's band Millo. So we won't play that one. But there's a band that also is in Zebra label that is called Plano Terra. And we're gonna play right now. It's Millo and Plano Terra is the two first bands of the Zebra band. So here goes something fresh. Let me just share the screen. Second.
Fala para ele que ele vai dar uma nota de 0 a 5 para a banda.
Okay, you want to do something like give one stars to the music from 1 to 5, okay? That's okay for you, Joseph?
Do what? I'm sorry?
Do like we put the whole song and you give a rate from from
you want me to
1 to 5
rate
stars.
it?
Yeah, but after that you explain because
leave a Google review.
no, you explain like I don't like this kind of genres.
Yeah. I'll be honest.
Like,
I'll be honest.
We won't show any shitty band. It was all great bands.
That's fine. I'll be honest.
Okay. Just a second. Okay.
Ele topou, Rod?
Topou. Peraí, o que é a tela errada?
Tá na aba.
Ainda bem que não tinha nada constrangedor. Tá aparecendo pra você?
Está sim. Pergunta se está aparecendo para ele também.
Are you seeing the YouTube screen?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, let's start it.
Cool.
Eu não assinei nenhum tipo de contrato com o universo em que diz que ele poderia me sacanear.
It's got a good voice.
Eu não precisei de nada do que você disse que era certo, nem das coisas que eu fiz pra te contrariar. Mas agora é só mais um jeito de lembrar aquilo que eu quero esquecer. Nada vai mudar e eu nem quero mais
Production is
saber.
pretty good.
Jeito de lembrar e o que eu posso fazer para acabar com essa vontade de você. O sinal já fechou pra mim e agora eu desisto, sério.
Cool video too.
Tô cansado de assistir e ter que esperar minha vez. O sinal já fechou pra mim e agora eu desisto, sério. Tô cansado de assistir, mas vou ter que falar outra vez. E a certeza de que sigo só. Eu sei que agora vai ser bem melhor.
You got a really good voice.
E a lembrança do que virou pó. Mas agora é só mais um jeito de lembrar aquilo que eu quero esquecer. Nada vai mudar e eu nem quero mais saber. Jeito de lembrar e o que eu posso fazer para acabar com essa vontade de você. Ouça o que eu digo agora. Isso vai fazer mal pra você e pra mim. Ouça o que eu digo agora. Isso vai fazer mal pra você e pra mim.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good song. I didn't understand a single word. That's okay. I was
But
actually
about the
looking for
scenario,
maybe- I was looking for maybe one word I would understand, but I completely just that.
yeah, the name means like closest signal.
Right. That's cool. No, this just shows how, English centric my life is. But no, it's a great song. It's a cool band. The production is good, and I will. The caveat is that I don't listen to a lot of rock music, and so for me to say that I wouldn't put something instantly into my cycle of listening doesn't mean that I can't also appreciate it, because that's a great song. The drumming was really good, tasteful. I think when I listen to music like that, like a song like that, what I'd be looking for is like, is this something that's going to stick in my head? Is it something that's done tastefully? And
catch stories that will keep in your head, like
4.5 out of 5 stars.
Então são 4,5. Que ele falou que ele não é o tipo de, ele não ouve rock, né, em geral, ele ouve
4.5 out of 5 stars, but only because I didn't understand it. But that's not their fault. That's just me. So.
Ok. Ele falou que é 4,5 porque ele não entendeu a letra, né? Então ele não pode julgar. Mas ele gostou da produção. Ele falou que não é o tipo de música que ele ouve, mas é uma música agradável, né? Os timbres estão bons.
You can't give anything 5 stars because nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect in life. But no, that's a great song. That's good stuff. They're on his, like, he's putting that out.
What? Sorry?
Gabriel's putting that stuff out, like that they're working together.
Essa vai sair pelo selo já? Tá, o microfone tá cortado. Ele falou que he said that this one won't be released by the label because it's already released.
But now they're working together.
Yeah, now they're working together. Like they are like co-owners from the label.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, great. I mean, what really stuck out to me was his voice. He has a great voice.
Yeah, the dynamic when he enters the chorus is softly when the heavy guitars is really beautiful, I think.
Really, really tasteful guitar solo on the bridge. Just really nice rock and roll, guitar solo on the bridge.
Yeah, it's the kind of rock song for dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So, for Sianvar is doing good. The next one, colocar do João Albert, pode ser? Seu microfone tá mudo, Gabriel. Acho que você tem que aceitar aí.
Pô, cara, já tava mudo há mó tempão?
Que eu consegui ler seus lábios quando você falou da I really Gabriel lips when
Joseph conhece o João, é produtor da Millo, né? Fala isso pro Joseph, que foi ele que tava lá no grupo com a gente, João Albert, conhece.
So this song is called Nine. Essa é em inglês?
Hã?
Essa música é em inglês?
A música do João Albert não, porque é instrumental.
This
I
called
have time for one more.
One more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one in one more, or just this one?
This one right here.
Okay. Yeah, this guy is the Millo's producer. He worked together with Gabriel. Cool. Gabriel, ele só vai ter tempo para mais uma. Acho que vai aparecer uma coisa lá para ele fazer. A gente vai passar essa aqui e depois finalizar, beleza?
Tudo bem.
That's okay. So I will put this one. It's called Cloud Nine from João Albert.
Okay. Nice.
Great tone.
Kind of a cleany 5. Really good bass guitar. I like this a lot.
I think that's why I call Cloud9 the part is really soft. I think this one is more. What do you like?
Damn, that was amazing.
Yeah, so
I didn't expect that. That guitar work is ridiculous.
There's a really great tone, right?
4.8 out of 5 because I want to hear a different. I want to hear a real drummer, like a really crazy, dynamic, raw drummer over that stuff. But other than that, that's incredible. That was amazing.
Ele falou que ele vai dar 4.8 porque ele queria tipo uma roupagem diferente na bateria e tal. But
amazing though, the guitar work. That was a very beautiful song.
Yeah, the tone reminds me of Polyphia tones. Really soft and like.
Remind me of Pliny, if you know who Pliny is. Pliny and intervals kind of stuff. And I also want to, sorry, real quick. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I have no problem with programmed drums. I understand the necessity. Not everybody can get a drummer. And what I do love is when people are not afraid to be like, hey, I may not have a drummer right now. I'm still going to make this song happen. And that's what I love about it. Because programmed drums are not a bad thing at all. I just, of course, as a drummer, as a drummer, I think, oh, what would it be like if, like, you know, this drummer
came have a real hit and kind of stuff, right?
But that is not a critique at all. It's just my drummer perspective. But that is a really good song. That was really impressive. I actually wrote the name down because I want to maybe listen to it.
Okay, we'll say it later. One question. Did you hear about Eli Casagrande, the drummer of Sepultura?
You know what? I'm not that familiar. I know he's really, really, really good. But
it's because it was on a radio video. Just that's because everyone's saying he's maybe the best drummer in the world, but music is not a competition, but he's insane at drums. Let's start to finish part two. Don't take much time. Você quer perguntar mais uma coisa antes de finalizar, Gabriel? Posso mandar?
Não, eu quero só agradecer, cara. Agradecer ao Joseph pelo tempo, dizer para ele que a nossa música vai sair também pelo selo logo mais, por isso que tá demorando.
Sim.
E agradecer que eu sou um grande admirador aí dele. Se tiver como tu falar isso para ele.
Beleza. Eu vou fazer só uma pergunta antes, depois eu finalizo com os agradecimentos. Gabriel is thanking for everything. Before we start finishing, let me just do one question, because when I start to play, I started playing guitar, and my sibling was my first teacher, and he wasn't that technical musician, but he had the feeling. He was good, taking everything by ear. And one tip he gave me at the start was try to play with more different drum players that you can, because every drum player have a different approach from playing the exact same thing, and there's other ones that change everything. You have to play in a way you can reach them in the music. But you, as a drummer, what is the tip to get like to walking all this kind of genres that we have and try to create your style? What you can say for drummers that are starting or that are searching for not play like you, but create a style with mixed styles like you?
Yeah, so I have a few things to say, and I get asked this question a lot. And when it comes to giving tips for musicians, and this isn't just for drummers either, this is for all musicians or artists, it's, first of all, be ready for the long road, because there's you have to put in a lot of personal work. I call it the hermit life, where you're going to spend a lot of time playing by yourself, working on technique. You're going to be staring at the same four walls with a music stand in front of you and your metronome, and you've got to repeating. Yep, you have to put in that time. There's a lot of that not happening now because people are so addicted to social media and the outside world. You have to learn to leave the world at the door and focus. It's not easy to do these days, but you have to.
You have to follow a real method of study, not like, I can play once, it's okay. My second word my second sort of thing to say is that always find a teacher. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how good you are. I prefer that.
Never stop being a student. You may think you have some method that's going to work for you, but I guarantee if you even if it's online, you find somebody to do a Skype lesson with, or, for some of my people I talk to on tour, it could just be your local person at a college they may not be the best in the world, but you don't need the best in the world. What you need is somebody who's good enough and knows what they're doing to just give you a new regime, a new kind of a practice workout. And then take lessons from multiple people. You don't have to stay with the same teacher for 10 years. I've taken lessons from probably a collective 50 drum teachers at this point in my life. And I still take lessons to this day because I'm still searching for new practice routines and better ideas. And you never know what teacher is going to become a mentor or just blow your mind with some new idea that you hadn't thought of before.
Because music is still developing too, né?
Yeah, and I know that, and people always say, yeah, but that costs money. I recognize that. I mean, when I was young, I was mowing lawns and washing windows to pay for drum lessons. That's just, it's part of it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I get it. I don't say that thinking, oh, it should just be a piece of cake. Just find a drum teacher and pay them a fortune. It's just, there's always a way. Find it, make it happen. And then I guess the third thing, if I had to sum this up into three things, the third thing is just be honest in what you're doing. If you don't like something, you really honestly don't like it, don't force yourself to do it just because you see somebody else doing it. You're never going to be exactly like your idols. We all idolize musicians and put them on these crazy pedestals, and that's fine. but you will never sound exactly like that person. You may be able to get on their skill level, but be yourself. You are an amalgamation. You're kind of a Frankenstein monster of all the things you're taking in. And that's a good thing. You know, of course you're going to be playing some of the same drum rudiments and licks and grooves as other drummers, but you are going to mold them into your own voice. And so there has to come a point where you stop trying to sound like all your favorite people and just be you. That is going to carve more of a place in the industry for you than trying to copy people, is just being honest. When I ask people why, I always ask people why they hire me. Because I'm always curious. Because there's a lot of better drummers out there. And there's a lot of young drummers that are better than me. They're probably cheaper than me. So I'm like, why me? I'm curious, why are you hiring me? And they always just say, you just make it feel good. You just have your own sort of style that you put on things. And so I'm not the best drummer in the world by any stretch, but I just have my own identity, and that's why I play on the records I play on.
And Gabriel say exactly that when he say, because you were the drummer that he and the bass player think that fits is the sound they wanted to be like the Millo drums, and he say, "Oh, it would be crazy if the guy do a line for us." And when you say yes, was exactly like that. There was another drum player that he wanted was you, because you have your style, have your approach to play things, and
it's just identity.
Every drum you have you can be some personal favorite drummer, but other people have that. But it's not competition, right?
Yeah, you don't get hired being the best on earth. No one does.
Yeah,
someone does something, but think about all the best musicians that have ever lived. They weren't the shreddiest, most talented. There's no barometer for that. It's just people like musicians because of their identity. Even if you think about really famous people like Michael Jackson or the band Queen, they weren't Olympic musicians. They were just really good at what they did. That the things they did were so honest and just powerful that it resonated.
Yeah, I think the most important part is the sounding good. If it's fast, it sounds good. Heavy and sound good. The most important thing is sound good. Because
the song is king, I should say. Sorry to interrupt, but like Will Swan and I always have this mantra that the song is king. Whatever serves the song best. Yeah, of course there is. And is there a place for the fastest drummer on earth? Yeah, that's cool. That's a fun thing to think about. But for us, whatever serves the song best within the context of the song is
the final product that matters, right?
Right.
Okay.
And you put that before your own musical ego, in theory.
Yeah, I think it's like sports when football is a team playing, not just you. And music is also like this. Unless you are doing a workshop, you have to appear more. But I think there's 3 good points to important, studio routine is really important.
Yeah.
And well, I think we had a lot of questions about your career and stuff, and we have a lot more, but for now it's okay.
We could get together again. Yeah, we spent part of 2 hours. And that's great, because I love talking about this stuff. It's actually
I will say sorry for taking your time.
No, it's okay. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I know that.
I've been trying to do this for a while.
I feel that during the conversation.
Today, incidentally enough, is actually my birthday, so I'm gonna go spend some time with my family.
Today, like right now.
June 13th. Yeah, I was born today.
Now it's June 14th, but sorry, a little bit late.
For you,
but for you, it's still okay. So, anniversary dele. Happy birthday, Joseph.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Joseph.
Birthday.
Hey, thanks.
So much. I didn't know that was your birthday. I think I wouldn't do this if I knew it.
I didn't tell you guys on purpose because I knew you'd be like, oh, it's his birthday. I'm still alive.
Sorry, but okay, it's your birthday, but you gave us a gift today, so thanks.
Hey, this made my day. I get birthday wishes from Brazil and Japan, so that's pretty cool. That's
you got a point.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Gabriel asked me to say that he's a long-time fan of your job, and it's amazing to play with you, collaborating with you. and we hope can do more like stuff like this, conversation, collaboration.
Yeah, I'd love to, especially international stuff. If this ends up reaching some people internationally,
really cool.
That's so cool.
The only bad part is the time, but we always can do get a better way for everyone. It's okay.
What I need to do is I need to learn Portuguese. What I need to do.
Yeah, my English is very bad because when I came to Japan, Portuguese. You have really good sense for Portuguese.
Portuguese. I don't know.
The first one was perfect. But now I learn in Japanese and I have English. I think in Portuguese. Sometimes I mix everything and you ask me something in a language it's another. But it's good to talk with you because I also practicing my English.
Yeah. Well, this is good. I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
We're finishing right now. So thank you for the last time and happy birthday again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hey, I'll talk to you. Happy birthday. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Take care and be safe in your parts of the world. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. So, one thing I forgot to say, Gabriel said the CD was, the music you guys recorded together wasn't released yet because they plan to release with the label release. So we hold a little bit more.
Yeah, I want to make sure everyone knows that I have a song.
So once he is about to be released, Gabriel.
Maybe around that time we'll do another.
We'll be a good one.
Yeah, cool. All right, good to know.
So enjoy your birthday, please. Sorry for taking you so long.
No, don't be sorry. I did this because I wanted to. Don't be sorry. You guys take care and be safe. You. Thanks.
All right.
All right. See you, dudes.
Yeah.
Bye, Gabriel. Bye.
Bye, Joey.
Finalizar aqui a gravação. Fica online rapidinho. Finalizar a gravação, a gente troca uma ideia rapidinho só pra eu. Cara, muito gente boa.
Saiu?
Né, oi, ele saiu já.
Ele foi muito gente boa.
Ele foi, mano. Trocou uma ideia.
Onde me encontro agora?